There's some interesting bargain free agents available. The Astros would be crazy to let one of their stars go. And we say rest in peace to a wonderful player who was also one of the good guys in baseball.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Now, as you may know, FanDuel is America's number one sportsbook. And now you have a chance to win $150 if you create an app, and you can get that in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. Same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at the brand new Blue Sky at Sully Baseball Podcast on the Instagrams. Yeah, as I noted, we're going to talk a little bit about pending free agents. No news yet on Juan Soto. No news yet on some big moves out there. But first things first, I think it's only right that we pay tribute to a player who had a wonderful career, and that was Rico Carty. Rico Carty, who was born Ricardo Adolfo Jacobo Carty, and he was known as Beach Boy, native of the Dominican Republic. And he was part of Major League Baseball before the huge influx of stars coming over from the Dominican Republic took place. He was kind of early in. He was a huge star in the Dominican Republic in the Pan American Games in the late 50s, which led to him being signed with the Milwaukee Braves. And he wound up immediately, while he didn't quite have a position at first, he showed he could certainly hit at the major league level. In 1964, his first full season in the major leagues, he appeared in a couple of games in 1963. But remember the Milwaukee Braves, he batted 330 with an OPS of 942 as a 24-year-old outfielder for the Braves. He hit 22 home runs, drove in 88 runs, and was part of those Braves teams that, well, they still had tons of talent. The Milwaukee Braves never had a losing record, but for whatever reason, their attendance faded away. That is part of another podcast. But had a brilliant start to his career, and then had some injuries. He had a shoulder problem in 1967, and he missed the entire 1968 season, partly from his shoulder injury, and also he had tuberculosis. And in 1969, he came back with an absolute vengeance, batting 342, got some MVP votes, and helped the Braves go to the first ever National League Championship Series. That was the first year that they had divisions, and the Mets and the Braves played in the first ever NLCS. Now, I will never, ever, ever understand why the Braves were in the National League West. That will never make any sense to me. Atlanta's an East Coast team. That's an East Coast city. What the hell are we even talking about here? The St. Louis Cardinals were in the East. The Cincinnati Reds were in the West. Cincinnati's to the east of St. Louis. The Chicago Cubs were in the East. The Chicago White Sox were in the West. Nothing made sense. All was insane in 1969. And from 1969 till 1993, the Braves were in the West. Never made any sense. But that 69 team that won 93 games got swept by the Mets, who went on to win the World Series. But Lum Harris was the manager. It was the first great team for the Atlanta Braves, 93 win team. And think about some of the players who were on that team. You had a Hall of Famer in Henry Aaron, obviously. You had a Hall of Famer in Orlando Cepeda. You had a Hall of Famer in Phil Niekro, who won 23 games for that team. You had a Hall of Famer in Hoyt Wilhelm, who came in towards the end of the season and pitched 12 and a third innings, letting up one run out of the bullpen. Right there, that's four Hall of Famers. Were there more Hall of Famers on there? Well, I got this up here. No, but they had wonderful players. Like, first of all, you had you had a young Dusty Baker, you had a young Ralph Garr, you had a young Darrell Evans. These were all people who went on to have wonderful all-star careers. You had a really solid player named Tony Gonzalez, who's kind of their fourth outfielder. They had Felipe Alou, they had Clete Boyer, they had Felix Millan. They had so many terrific players on that team and a pretty deep pitching staff. Niekro, who threw 21 complete games that year, 21 complete games, and got a save. That's quite a year. Milt Pappas, who had, who will always be associated with the Frank Robinson trade. He didn't quite deliver as a member of the Reds, but he came in big time for the Braves. That's a fabulous team. And Rico Carty was right in the middle of that team, batting .342 with an OPS of .951. He got some MVP votes that year, and they got clubbed by the Mets in the playoffs, but it looked like a lot of great years were going to be blooming in Atlanta. And then 1970, well, they fell far off the mark, finishing 10 games under 500, but it wasn't Rico Carty's fault, as he led the National League in batting average, on-base percentage, ROBA. He had an OPS over 1,000, hit 25 home runs, drove in 101 runs. He hit 175 hits, had a phenomenal year. Now, unfortunately, he had that was also the year he got a 31-game hitting streak. He was the player of the month, but he had a knee injury, and it looked like it derailed his career as his career started falling apart. At that point, he was 30 years old, had a bunch of great seasons. Got kicked around. He played for three teams in 1973. He played for the Rangers. They got rid of him. He went to the Cubs. He clashed with some of the stars there. The A's picked him up in 73. That team won the World Series, but unfortunately for him, he was acquired too late to be put on the playoff roster. In 74, it just looked like all was done. And then he rebounded and had several great years with Cleveland and became a regular 300 hitter, got some MVP votes in 76, and then bounced around between the Blue Jays and the A's towards the end of his career. But had a wonderful career, got 1,600 some odd hits, 204 home runs, played 15 seasons, and was one of those players that, is he a Hall of Famer? No, but beloved of the Atlanta Braves, and also, by all accounts, a very good charitable man who did lots of charity work for raising money and raising awareness and doing all sorts of things in his native Dominican Republic, and kind of playing off the Roberto Clemente model of not just being a good player, but letting the charity and being a good citizen be part of his repertoire. And Rico Carty was a beloved member of the Braves organization. He's in the Braves Hall of Fame. He's in the Caribbean Baseball Hall of Fame. And he's going to be one of those types of players whose memories and deeds will probably fade as the generations go, as he's out in Cooperstown, and those who saw him play eventually will get older and pass. But do you know what? A player like that is worth bringing up. And a player like that is worth saluting. So rest in peace, Rico Carty. You were a champion, maybe not on the World Series level, but as a human being and as a player. Big holidays mean big family get-togethers. So gather your loved ones and enjoy all the holiday traditions you cherish with the help of cash back from Ibotta. This month, Ibotta is giving new users 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce, personal care, to pantry goods, so you can get everything you need for the holidays. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or to gift cards. You can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Download the Ibotta app now and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA at Google Play or the App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. Ibotta. Come on. Let's save some money. And now let's hear from our good friends over at Gametime. You know what? It's a great time to be buying tickets. I use Gametime to go to the National League Championship Series in Los Angeles. And when I head up north, I may be using Gametime to check out the San Jose Sharks and the Shark Tank. I'm going to find the best tickets available. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks, which makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They got all-in prices, so you get no surprise fees at checkout. Seat Views give you a panoramic view of your seat from the app before you buy. It's the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? It's Gametime. All right. One of the things that happens around this time is the teams that have players who are potentially up for arbitration can non-tender a player, not offer them a contract, thus sending them out to the world as free agents. And it's always interesting that there's some players out there, sometimes quality players, who are now available, are not going to have draft picks attached to them, and could potentially help your team. And something you're probably not going to get an MVP, you're probably not going to get a superstar. But if you're a team that is looking for some specific help and not wanting to jump into some of the big free agent racket, you can get some players out there who there's more than one player available out there who have had quality seasons recently and may just use that proverbial change of scenery to get them a good quality position here. You know, in 2021, Dylan Carson finished third in the National League Rookie of the Year vote. And he's available. He is completely available. The Rays picked him up. He hasn't been very good, but again, he's a player who has talent, and maybe you give someone like that a chance and say, hey, look, we know you've got talent. Dust yourself off and get back in there. People have been waiting for, Connor Joe to become the great big power hitter in the middle of their lineup. Hasn't really happened, but as a part-time DH or as someone with, a platoon situation, he's available. Brent Honeywell, who got clobbered in the World Series, but he has, he's available. He's a relief pitcher, and I know teams need relief pitchers. So the weird thing is that Cal Quantrill a couple of years ago was a real quality pitcher in the majors, and he pitched for the Rockies last year and didn't pitch particularly well. But who the hell pitches well in Colorado? When you have a quality player like Cal Quantrill, am I saying he is the new answer to Craig Maddux? No, I'm not. But if you take a look at someone as recently as 2022, just go back to 2022. He gave Cleveland a bunch of innings, had a good strikeout to walk ratio. If you had a good ERA of 3.38, I don't really look at the win-loss record, because I don't think that tells you much of anything, but he was a 15-game winner, if you like that. Had an ERA plus of 112. The year before, he had a ERA plus of 149. We're talking about just a couple of years ago. And if you say, hey, you don't have to play in Colorado anymore, if you're looking to patch together a starting pitching staff, you can do a lot worse than that. Jacob Webb um, is pitched for Baltimore last year and pitched 60 games for them. And yeah, he had injury issues, but I don't know. I mean, you're looking for a pitcher coming back to give you depth, and you get someone like Jacob Webb who's available. I think one of the more interesting ones is Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, a was a top prospect, and he had a very good year a few years ago. Looked like had a ton of promise, and then just hasn't really amounted to it in Colorado. Again, a situation where maybe a change could do him, could do positive things for him, a fresh start. And I can't help but think of Cincinnati, who traded away Jonathan India to improve their pitching situation. Well, stick Brendan Rodgers in there. He's got good defense. He won the Gold Glove in 2022 and is playing for a lousy team in Colorado. It's not going to cost the Reds much. And maybe if they plug in second base, the loss of Jonathan India won't be so horrific. A player like Ramon Laureano is available, and he could be good depth for in the outfield. Jordan Romano, I think, is one of the interesting ones because he was an all-star caliber relief pitcher for a couple of years. He stunk last year. He stunk as the Blue Jays spiraled. If you're a contending team, if you're a team like the Yankees, you're a team like Baltimore, you're a team like some of the West teams that may want to take a run at the Astros, or if you're the Astros for that matter, and you have a chance to take someone who just 2023 was an all-star caliber reliever and say, hey, I know you had a bad season in Toronto. We're not asking you to be the stud. Just give us some depth. You can do a lot worse than that. Then Austin Hayes, big fan favorite in Baltimore. Maybe the Orioles can go pick him up again. He's available, and he didn't play particularly well in Philadelphia, but maybe bring him back home to Baltimore. But here's the wildest one for me. And this was the kind of like, I mean, this is, as I said, this is not like someone non-tendered Trevor Hoffman at the height of his powers. But Kyle Finnegan was on the All-Star team. Now, I understand that's not the end-all, be-all. I understand that sometimes teams need to have a token All-Star. I understand that someone can make the All-Star. The rosters on the All-Star team have been expanded, and so many stars don't want to participate. That yeah, it gets to be, it's maybe a little bit diluted. But if he is he's a closer for the Washington Nationals. And if they were just going to non-tender him, why the hell didn't they just trade him? But if you're a team looking to get the depth in your bullpen and you say, hey, what if we could get a reliever who made the All-Star team last year? Now, a team like the Angels, that's a team that I'm staring at for this. You're a team that's going to get Mike Trout, hopefully get him healthy for the season. You need to just grab major leaguers and start filling holes. But if you're looking to contend, if you're a team that is on the verge of contention, but can't go out there and sign all the huge players, this is where you could be saying, hey, you didn't have a great year last year. Can you have a bounce back with us? Show us. Or if you're Kyle Finnegan, you say, hey, do you have a chip on your shoulder because you made the All-Star team and then you got freaking non-tendered? Very interesting bargain basement hunting here. But we'll see which one of them will go through and pull a supermarket sweep and put major league players at each position. There's one big player that's out there who's being rumored to be maybe going to Houston or maybe going to Detroit. And if I were the Houston Astros, and I'm not, there's no way I'm letting this player walk. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Now, the biggest free agent, obviously, right now is Juan Soto. And supposedly there's going to be teams making their official offers this week. And you know what? We'll see what happens. The other big free agent out there is Alex Bregman. And it really looks like it's going to be coming down to two teams. It looks like it's going to be coming down to the Astros and the Detroit Tigers with an outside chance for the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox have said, hey, maybe we can convince Rafael Devers to move over to first base, which would make a lot of sense for Boston, especially when you consider some of their top young players are infielders, and you want to give them spots to play on the field. Bregman going to Boston, right-handed power hitter, has some good pop, and obviously is a Gold Glove caliber defender. It would make sense for Boston. It would also make sense for the Detroit Tigers, a team that's on the rise, and it could be a reunion with Hinch's former manager, who he won a World Series title with back in 2017, the World Series that must not be mentioned, but it was a World Series won. And of course, he was part of the team that went on to win the World Series in 2022 and came within a game of going back to the World Series in 2023. It was almost 3 straight pennants. And then you had this year where they was a little bit of a letdown. They went down to 88 wins and everything, and they were unceremoniously bounced by the Detroit Tigers. But everyone, let's not put a funeral notice on the Houston Astros just yet. Remember, this was a team that was 12 games under 500 on May 8th. They got off to a horrible start, and this team was still a sub 500 team in late June. They were a sub 500 team. They had fallen all the way to 10 games out of first place in the middle of June. And at that point, when they were 10 games back of the Seattle Mariners, and people were wondering if they should sell, for the last 2/3 of the season, the Houston Astros had the best record in the American League. For the last 88 games of the season, nobody had a better record in the American League than the Astros. And the only team that had a better record overall was San Diego. So it's not like the Astros are, oh man, got to start the rebuild. No, absolutely not. And you take a look at this team, if you take a look at the division, no one's going to sign with the A's because they're going to be in Sacramento. Okay? The Angels are an absolute mess. Okay? That's 2. The Rangers, well, it's every other year for Texas. And while Texas had a disappointing defense with their championship, you'd be dumb to count them out. Seattle, you don't know what the hell they're going to be. Are they the team that took a 10-game lead, or are the team that did a Wile E. Coyote faceplant? The Astros have to be considered the favorites to win and repeat as the 2025 AL West champs. Remember, they won the freaking division. And you take a look at their team: Yonder Diaz, Jeremy Pena, uh, Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez. They are all under 30. Hunter Brown looks like a solid pitcher. They still have Framber Valdez and Ronel Blanco and Spencer Arrighetti in there. And if they bring back Yusei Kikuchi, basically they need to start kicking the tires on some of those relievers. Maybe Kyle Finnegan could come over there. And they need to figure out the first base situation. But this is still by far the team that should be considered the favorite to win the American League West. And take a look at the American League right now. Who is the super team of the AL? Who is it? Is it the Yankees? If the Yankees lose Juan Soto, which could certainly, the only thing that is going to have Juan Soto return to the Yankees is if the Mets decide not to sign him. If the Mets want to sign him, he will be a Met because they will offer him the most money. Their pitching staff is interesting. And yes, they're the defending American League champs. Yes, they have as good a chance as anyone to win, but they're a flawed team. Cleveland's a good team, but they're a flawed team. Kansas City is good, but they're a flawed team. Texas is good. They're a flawed team. There's no front runner. The Dodgers, the Phillies, possibly the Mets are super teams. Okay? And it would be startling if the national champion wasn't one of those. Wasn't one of the teams I just mentioned. There is no great team in the American League right now. Tell me who it was. Tell me when I'm wrong. Who's the great team? There are some very good teams in the American League. As I said, the Yankees are a very good team, but they're not a great team. And we saw a bounce here or a bounce there, and Cleveland would have had them on their heels. Baltimore is a talented team, but they're flawed. You know, you don't know what the hell you're going to get at Tampa Bay or Oakland, as those two teams are going to be playing in minor league ballparks. Minnesota has talent, but we saw that they could face plant. Detroit has talent, but no one's going to call them a great team yet. The Astros have as good a chance as anybody to win the American League pennant. And you can't take your foot off the pedal when you have that chance and this run, which is not over. What I'm saying is, when you have a team that has Alvarez, Tucker, Ronel Blanco, Framber Valdez, you still have Altuve there. You still have Hunter Brown there. You would be banana boats to not bring back Bregman. Find out what he wants and pay him that. Because whatever it's going to cost to replace him will be more, will cost you more, and may not be as productive. You know what you're getting. You know you're getting great defense. You know you're getting some pop. He doesn't have to be the big hero of the team. Doesn't have to be the big superstar of the team. And you know that he's someone who, you know, has 19 postseason home runs in his 99 postseason games. You know he can get a hold of one. So what I'm saying is, I'm not even an Astro fan. And I get why Detroit wants him. I get why Boston wants him. But he should be an Astro for life, or at least for the rest of his prime. And the Astros should be going for it. Do you know why? This is the American League. There is no great team. And maybe the Astros could be the closest thing to that. All right, well, here's the deal. I hope we start getting some info about Juan Soto because, quite frankly, this waiting around for it is getting a bit much. And we'll be talking about some things, including the upcoming Hall of Fame ballot, my thoughts on that, what players have already reached some Hall of Fame level stats we're currently playing, and a couple other things, including a day coming up, not this week, but the next week, where it's one of those This Day in Baseball History podcasts I'm going to do, where a lot of interesting things happened in early December over the years. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now. And you follow me. I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball at Blue Sky, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Bidding farewell to Rico Carty, showing what players are now available on your wish list, and saying the Astros would be crazy to let Bregman walk. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.